Who does this? Who writes not just one, but two best-selling books during the pandemic? Well, Karen Mangi, that's who. That's right. Karen Mangi is the author of Working from Home, How to Make the New Normal Work for You, and also Listen Up, how to tune into customers and turn down the noise. Today, our focus is on the insights inside of working from home. And this book is the fastest full-length hardback production book ever brought to market by Wiley. This book was written in 35 days. How was Karen able to do that? How did she create two books during this pandemic? And what insights can you gain to focus on your success? Because that's our conversation today, to look in the direction of how you can make a powerful impact for your organization and how you can create a culture of high performance when leading and working on remote teams. As we concentrate on your success right now with that introduction, let me turn it over to the one and only Karen Mangi.
We're pursuing dreams, goals, aspirations. And along the way, it's critical to take a pause and understand not only do we know where we're going, but why and how do we feel about that journey?
Mindfulness is important in mindset, and you talk about that as well as the tactics and strategies that can help people. So many folks right now, though, what they're facing is they're battling burnout within the organization. In fact, statistics say that 72% of employees report experiencing burnout in some form. What guidance and advice can you provide to help people to battle burnout?
What it starts with is having healthy grazing habits.
Grazing, did you say grazing habits? What do you mean?
I don't know if you've noticed how easy it is when you're working in your home office to take a glass downstairs with the intention of getting some water, which is fantastic. And then when you get there, you notice those salty, crunchy snacks are starting to speak to you and call your name, along with the cookies that someone in your house baked last night. So you have a little bite. And before you know it, last night's leftovers in the refrigerator are beckoning you and you answer the call. And just like always grazing on food all day long isn't a very healthy habit, neither is constantly grazing on work. You have to shut that pantry door, and at work, your laptop is your pantry. It's so easy to give into that just one more syndrome, just one more email, just one more PowerPoint slide, just one more tweet or text. And then suddenly we find ourselves wondering where our nights and weekends have gone. What we need to combat that burnout is to close our laptop, to shut that pantry door. And what helps us to do that are routines, rituals, and boundaries. I mean, for most people, you had some kind of a commute in the past. And while you might not have loved battling traffic or trying to get your kids to the bus stop or daycare on time, you had a reason and a routine to go to work and then to leave it. And my question to you is, now that your line between your work and your life has completely evaporated, I mean, they've blended, what's your new commute? What's that routine that helps you to step out of the office and transition into that healthier habit of being present at home?
It's so true. There's a blending between work and life, and there's really no balance left. I mean, if you think about it, as we record this on, well, let's see, it's Blur's Day is when we're recording this. There is an always on nature to work, but if you don't step back, you can't step into being your best self. So, in your book, you talk about ways that people can find balance. And what have you done to help find balance in your life during this difficult time?
What works for me, I call it the 3 M's. And I had someone think that had to do with a sticky note. Actually, this is not about the 3M Corporation, but it's a strategy that's sticky, if you ask me. It's all about music, mindfulness, and movement. Three very simple strategies that create upside. I look forward to doing those things for a couple of minutes at the end of the day as a reason to change the channel, as a tool to replicate that commute where I can clear my mind, leave work behind, and transition into being fully present at home.
So many times people feel like they've got so much going on. There's so many ideas spinning around, and you've got an interesting way to help people to really find some clarity in the midst of all the chaos. What exactly is that story?
It's almost like there's a spinning fan in front of you. In fact, picture it right now. That fan is spinning as fast as it can. And now imagine that I ask you to take this Post-it note I showed you earlier and put it through the slats of that fan and get it to the other side. It's the easiest way to accomplish that task.
It seems to me the easiest way to do it. You turn off the fan.
You'll have to stop the fan. And that's what happens. I'm observing we spend so much time trying to figure out how to make the fan spin faster. This activity of how many more meetings can I put on my calendar? Or can I be working on a to-do or loading up the Instacart for grocery delivery at the same time that I'm at work? We're trying to fit more into that space. And what we need to do is stop and turn off the fan.
And you've got 3 questions that can help stop the spinning fan. What are those 3 questions?
Well, because it's Dreamforce, I'm also going to give you a bonus question. So 3 questions and a bonus, and here they go. First, does it have to be? Does it have to be me? Does it have to be me right now? And the bonus question, does it have to be a meeting?
What would you say to someone who is just overwhelmed by all the things, and you talk about them in your book, you speak about the different challenges that people face, relationships, family, homeschooling, all of the challenges of people, uncertainty about the future, all of those things. What do you say when somebody comes to you and just, how do you help them to sort through that overwhelm that's such a big part of burnout?
You are not alone. That's the first and most important strategy. And from there, it's just take a breath for a moment to assess what are the outcomes you're trying to deliver. What is the intersection of that goal and that soul that we were talking about earlier? And I found so many times in my life when I'm overworked or I'm feeling burnt out, it's because I don't have a clear definition of that goal or of what success looks like. Because by contrast, I found when I do, and you mentioned writing a book in 30 days, I knew that was a goal. And in order to achieve that goal, I had to say no to some other things. And that clear definition of success helped me filter out the obligations that would not serve me during that period of time. And it became a remarkable filter and clarity on where to spend my best time and energy and what to say yes to and what to say no to. Without that filter, it's tempting to live in that overwhelm and say yes to everything and just have a constant stream of activity without ever really understanding why.
How did you create these 2 books? What was the strategy that helped you to get beyond overwhelm and burnout and see possibilities?
2 words. There were 2 words that changed everything for me. And what I've realized is help me do the impossible and they'll do the same for you. They open up the path to new opportunity. And those 2 words are why not? I mean, maybe you aspire to starting a blog or being a better partner or parent or pet owner during this time. Why not? Instead of seeing all the reasons why something can't be done, why not?
Yeah, and there's something that's really interesting. It's a story that's in the book, and you tell it so well because, and people may not know this about you, but you are a trained chef, and you share a story that I think is just fascinating. And you asked me a question one day. You said, "Hey, Chris, do you know what the one single ingredient is that every great chef uses in every recipe?" Dessert chef, pastry chef, Italian chef, French chef, they all cook with this one thing. Do you know what it is? And I didn't, but can you share what it is that you discovered?
When I pose this as a poll question, people often respond with salt, butter, thyme. Those are all great answers. Sometimes love, that's a great answer too. And really, the one ingredient that every great chef includes, nostalgia. Nostalgia. That's why comfort food, for example, is so popular, right? When something looks and feels uncertain, we gravitate toward what we know. And what I think is so interesting about that is as companies during this period of time, we start to look at everything has shifted And yet we keep hanging on to that nostalgia, that the way we've always done things, that recipe that made us successful in the past. When the opportunity that we have to find a new path forward and create something new is to challenge a little bit of that nostalgia in a productive way, to ask, is there a better way? And really to tap into your genius. And when I think about tapping into your genius, and we all have these moments of genius, there's a question that I like to ask that was inspired by someone who built a $25 million business based on this one thought, this one genius question: how could I make this easier?
Interesting. And what did she discover when she looked in the direction of making something easier?
Making something easier, and in fact, getting to a better outcome, was a function of what you take away, not what you add. And in fact, let me show you what she did. She challenged probably one of the most nostalgic aspects of food culture: the birthday cake and the wedding cake. Those beautiful layered cakes. We've all had pictures in front of them. We have wonderful memories of ourselves there. And what Chef Christina Tosi figured out was she was spending quite a lot of time, energy, and effort trying to make that cake just perfect. And to do that, she had to use this tool right here. It kind of looks like a lazy Susan, but imagine this is spinning. Now there's a cake on it, and you have to put this spatula on there to get those perfectly flat frosted sides. And what she asked was, how could I make this easier? And so what she did was she took away the frosting on the edges. And when she did, she invited surprise and discovery and delight. She kept the essence of what mattered while making the experience of producing and participating easier.
Wow. So Karen, maybe a takeaway for the folks that are watching this right now is to consider what they might be able to take away. What could they remove that could reveal something new? Is that the takeaway from the story?
Every organization has layers, right? I mean, how many times have we all been in a scenario where there's some process that feels that it has lots of steps, and it's the reason that we tell a customer we can't get something done more quickly? And my question is, when you examine those layers, how could you invite your customers or even your employees in designing your working from home strategy to think about those layers that exist, to think about and really challenge what is it that you could take away to get to a better end result?
Well, shifting gears to talk a little bit about teams and people who are either leading remote teams or working as part of a remote team right now. Your book has a lot to say about new ideas and insights for leadership in this unique environment that we find ourselves in. What can you share that can help people who are hoping to create greater performance as part of a remote workforce?
The three most powerful words in leadership: I hear you. And right now, getting the best out of our colleagues and our teams means creating space to make sure people are being heard, whether that's your customers or your colleagues or your employees on your team. You have to make space, because see what happens when we're on these video cameras and staring into these boxes is small moves are really noticeable. So if you're trying to share with someone, I hear you and you're important, and they see you, looking away and picking up the mobile device, it sends a signal that you're not fully present and being heard. So first is quality time over quantity time. It makes a big difference. And when you're there, give the full gift of your presence, even if that means a 10-minute conversation, 10 minutes of quality focused interaction. So start there. Also, during this period of time, it's critical to think about strategies to build trust. And one of the most powerful trust building tools is ownership. Trusting someone to own a new task or a new idea. Distributed teams require distributed ownership. And what is it that your teams might be in the position to own now that they didn't in the past? When you start to think about this, it's not about leaders trying to get out of making difficult decisions or out of doing work. It's a tool when used in conjunction with a conversation mean, imagine how you would feel if I said, Chris, I trust you to own this new work from home initiative so that we can all show up well. I believe that you're capable, you're confident. Let me know how I can help you be successful. I mean, how would you feel if I trusted you with that?
That feels a lot different than you monitoring my keystrokes and asking me to check in every 15 minutes, which some companies did when this whole thing started. And hopefully they've moved on from that. But speaking of moving on from that, you've got some ideas and some theories about the future of work and some ideas about how organizations can structure around the center. Can you say more about that for folks that are watching this that might be curious about how to create a high performance remote work culture?
The success or failure of work rests with middle managers, that critically important group of people who are working with employees and are the first line to intercept how they're feeling and how they're doing. And it's also who we're all counting on when, as leaders, we're trying to pivot into a new strategy, or go in a new direction. And what that means is we've got lots of people who are managing others in the organization and trying to lead us in new directions who are in need of some new skills. There are many statistics say about 43% of people working from home for the first time. That means there are managers trying to have performance review conversations virtually for the first time, or to provide feedback, or to do some of those critical check-in activities. And so it's really important to think about how we reskill, retool, retrain, and equip that critical part of the organization with the skills they need to connect what employees are saying and those outcomes leaders are expecting them to deliver with the kinds of skills they need to truly be able to collaborate and connect and remove obstacles to success when we can't see people in person.
What can you say about the role of technology and tools that we have to keep in mind during this special time? What do you see there?
People before process. And I think it's tempting to jump to a tool without first asking, what problem are we trying to solve and for whom? It's critically important to understand what outcomes are being produced and if we're aligned and progressing on those. So, tools that help us hear from our employees more consistently, connect with our customers more directly to get feedback, and to collaborate on a path forward are critically important. It's all about solving for what I think of as the trust gap. How can leaders know that their employees are working and delivering outcomes? And for employees, they're wanting their leaders to know how hard they're working and that outcomes are getting delivered. So the technologies that help us solve for that trust gap in a productive way so that people can do asynchronous work, be highly responsive to customer needs and requests, and be able to look in the direction of opportunity are the types of tools that are both helpful to combat burnout and automate some of those repetitive tasks, but also can help build trust and enable people to move forward.
One of the things that you share in the book is a story about best practices from Accenture. And in that story, there's a unique spin on collaboration, some surprising information to be discovered there. Can you talk a little bit about the importance of collaboration in the remote workforce?
Collaboration requires coordination. That was something I really took away from the conversations with the Accenture team. They're looking in the direction of collaboration and creating solutions and solving problems. And in the past, of course, that happened in a room with a whiteboard and, people looking each other in the eye. And what they've realized now is that same level of collaboration can occur. It just requires some coordination and some choreography. They really prescribe this formula of spending about 4 hours outside of a meeting, planning for 1 hour inside of a meeting. And what you're doing with that preparation time is thinking about how to unfinish your slides. I mean, how to do the opposite of what we were all taught. Don't show up with all the answers. Show up with a couple of great questions. Let people know their role in interacting to get to the solution, and designate people to play dedicated roles in solving for that. And in some ways, I think it's the opposite of what we were taught. Show up with all of your slides, the answers to all of the questions, let that unfold in an interesting way where you show people they've been heard. And in this case, the strategy they've discovered is the most effective is exactly the opposite. Show up well prepared, show up with great moderators, ask great questions, and co-create the outcomes and the result.
So, Karen, as we close our conversation today, you talked about the importance of collaboration. Can you please share how people might be able to collaborate and learn more about you?
I would love to connect and hear your feedback. You can find me on Twitter and on LinkedIn would be the best places to connect.
Terrific. And those stickers will be up here so that you can see where to connect with Karen. Thank you so much for watching this video. This concludes our remarks. My name's Chris Westfall, and thanks so much for tuning in.